Finn woke up to find himself sleeping on an uneven surface. It took him 3 seconds to figure out that he was inside a car, lying on the backseat. "I thought you'd want me to kill him." Tristan smiled. "Kill him? Forget that. I'm working hard on washing my hands clean of the past. I've only just opened up a branch office in East and Southeast Asia. I don't want to be chased down by the Interpol and have the Sioux family going after my life at the same time." Charles took a deep breath. Finn could clearly hear his heavy breathing. "But I still don't like it. Couldn't they have at least had put him in the backseat of another car?" Finn thought for a moment and decided to stop pretending to be asleep. "Before you get into the details of such important matters, can you tell me exactly what is going on between you two and Sutton? As the victim in this whole thing, I think I have the right to know." "Ha, my dear, you were actually eavesdropping on us." "I didn't need to eavesdrop. You two were too loud." "So you are saying we woke you up?" "Let me up." A minute later, Finn was sitting between Charles and Tristan on the backseat. If someone were to ask Finn what he hated to hear the most, he would undoubtedly point to Tristan's next words. "You don't have to worry about it. I will take care of it." If it could be said that Finn had been pretending in front of Tristan for the past few months, then he lost his leisurely patience after the kidnapping. Finn didn't save Tristan any face and rolled his eyes directly at the man. "My worrying about it has nothing to do with this. I've already been dragged into this mess. How can you tell me to just watch from the sidelines like a bystander?" Finn looked to his right at Charles. "Do you really think that Sutton would treat me as a mere bystander after he had kidnapped me, fed me drugs, then got tied up by me, got slapped in the face, got hit on the head, and then got stepped on the balls along with his little Sutton? Darling, good job." Charles gave Finn a big thumbs up. "I hope Sutton's little Sutton would never stand up again." Finn also rolled his eyes at Charles. Having woken up in high spirits, he had trouble controlling himself and slapped at both Tristan and Charles' legs. Charles conveniently caught hold of Finn's hand and made an expression as if to say, "I'm on the same side as Finn." He then added, "I think Finn's right. Since Sutton kidnapped Finn, it means he already sees Finn as one of us, and not as an outsider." Tristan was rather expressionless despite being excluded from the other two's united front. He looked insipidly at Finn and Charles, and nodded. "All right. I will tell you. Gab and I simply had a deal together. It was after he went solo. He had rather good qualifications, so I secretly pushed him up as an investor. I gave him opportunities and resources, and in return, he would get close to Sutton in my place and retrieve confidential information on Sioux Entertainment for me," Tristan explained concisely. "It was nothing more than what was necessary." Finn sighed and said, "Clearly, your plans have been exposed." He crossed his arms and leaned back, shoulders brushing against the other two. "Darling, you accepted that without any complaints." "Amazing," said Charles. Finn glanced at him. "Then do you want me to scream and make a scene?" "No, you're great the way you are." The corner of Charles' eye twitched. He simply couldn't imagine Finn screaming and crying like an idiot. Tristan quietly gazed at the streets outside the car. "He betrayed me." Finn was stunned, then he understood. He was a double agent? Finn didn't know what their situation amounted to, but he was certain that he was merely a chess piece in Tristan's hands, while Gab was Sutton's pawn. What kind of battle were they fighting here? The actor pulled open a drawer and took out a pack of cigarettes. He moved to the balcony and sat down in a chair. A flick of the lighter and a flame lit up the deep colors of the night. With the cigarette hanging from his mouth, Finn leaned into the flame to light it up. Smoke from the quietly burning tobacco quickly rose up in spirals and filled the air. Finn took a light drag. The smoke proved too pungent for him after having not touched a cigarette in years. He coughed a few times and only got used to the slightly bitter taste after it pervaded the entirety of his mouth. He languidly blew out a circle of white smoke. The smoke curled sluggishly like mist in the dark before dissipating into the cold night. The night was heavy. The city was lit by the splendor of endless lights, but it was a weak illusion of prosperity. A short-lived deception. Fragile enough that it could be blown away with a single breath, revealing the dirty steel and harsh concrete underneath, cold and foul. The burnt end of the cigarette fell onto the ground and had its light extinguished. Finn drew his legs in and buried his head into his knees. What had he been doing for these past few months? Had he been focusing too much attention on the baseless scandals that enveloped him like a tide? Finn, you are only human in the end. You can't see through everything. He was disappointed in himself. For the past few months, he had spent too much energy on Tristan, on Charles, on Albert, and on the unruly corporate battles. They were too complicated for an actor to understand and simply a waste of time. Finn was tired of it all after experiencing a kidnapping and fighting for his life. He suddenly had the urge to find someone to chat with and have a drink together. "Is there a reason why you're here?" Finn closed the door after Charles. The latter had run straight for the wine glasses and was even humming a tuneless song. "Babe, are you saying that I can only come looking for you if I have a reason?" With a pop, Charles opened the bottle of champagne and poured 2 glasses. He turned around and handed a glass to Finn. Finn sipped at the champagne. It was delicious. Charles perked up his nose and sniffed around the room like a puppy. He glanced suspiciously at the actor. "Did you smoke?" "It's exactly as you suspect." Finn sat cross-legged on the couch and turned on the TV. "You don't normally smoke. Is it because you're bothered by what's happened the last few days? I have to say, even though I like your fierce and strong attitude, the sight of you succumbing to an occasional weakness is enough to take my life. I can help you teach a lesson to Gab." Finn quickly raised a hand. He sighed helplessly. "Don't mention Gab anymore. Or Sutton for that matter. Don't drag me into another mess." "All right." Charles shrugged and leaned back into his seat. Watching the midnight news broadcast, he mumbled, "Darling, after experiencing a few things over the past few days, I've made a decision." "What decision? Are you renouncing your ways and turning over a new leaf?" A crafty light flashed across Charles' eyes, but instead of explaining further, he kept up the mystery and yawned. "You'll know soon enough." Charles' vague answer was a bit alarming. Finn narrowed his eyes and glanced at the lazy lump beside him. "That doesn't sound like anything good. Everything I do is for your sake. Are you moved?" "That sounds very scary," Finn replied honestly. He furrowed his brows. "Exactly what are you planning?" "I'm joking with you. I'm just shifting the focus of my work a bit." As Charles had said, a few special pictures had been more than useful. Sutton would not cause any more trouble for Finn anytime soon. Of course, it was also possible that Sutton was able to think through it clearly after calming down. It was not a wise choice to irritate 2 big shots just for an insignificant star. The exam for the True Star training class could not be completed in a single day. Taking into account the shooting of the program and audience ratings, the entire exam was split into 3 parts. After the exams were over, everyone involved in the show wanted to go out to eat and go for karaoke afterwards. Luckily, Finn was able to escape by saying that he was feeling a bit tired. Alone, Finn returned to his room to retrieve his medicine from the cupboard. He had to intensify his Wing Chun practice. He didn't need a horrifically muscular body, but he had to at least become a man who could, with one punch, cause a nosebleed. This was also in consideration for his own personal safety. Removing his jacket, Finn turned on the TV to watch the news while applying the lotion to aching areas. Not even a few minutes later, his cell phone started ringing. "I don't have time today, so even if you stand outside my door, I won't open it," Finn said as soon as he picked up the phone. The other person immediately went silent, and just as Finn was about to hang up, Tristan's voice came through the speaker. "I've never met anyone who talks to their boss this way." Finn was surprised. He had thought that it was Charles calling him again. Today, he wanted to be alone. "Is there a problem, President Liu? You performed well today." "Oh, thanks. There are exams tomorrow too, rest well." "Yeah, I will. Goodbye, and good night." "Good night to you too." The other party had already hung up. Truly a strange guy, Finn chuckled. Something flashed by outside his window, as if there was light. The man put down his medicine and walked over barefoot to his window and pulled open a small gap in the curtains. Below the apartment, a man wearing a black suit leaning against his car door was smoking a cigarette. After a while, he stepped on the stub and pulled open the car door to enter the car. Finn hid behind the curtains and looked at the black car as it left. Seeing that there was not a soul in sight left below, Finn drew back the curtains and left the window. Outside, the darkness of the night was boundless. In a dark gray t-shirt and black trousers, Finn stood facing the camera alone in a completely empty room. The sky was murky outside the window, the branches were dense yet still let in an inky gray. In such a vast, luxurious, yet empty room, he seemed so lonely and insignificant. The view on camera was already that of an oil painting revealing the song's prelude, paint stroke by paint stroke of pain and sorrow. His lightly moving lips seemed rather pale and cracked dry. Under his strong brows, a pair of shining eyes hid away countless secrets and experiences that no one would ever know. With every nuance in movement, it seemed as if you were also being pulled into his world. His facial expressions were very subtle, which was then magnified inside the camera shot to be music notes that pieced one's heart. Again and again, singing about wanting love, each minute expression seemed to tell of how he had tried to forget and erase his previous pain. The Finn under the spotlight, the Finn under the camera. They were two people. Their charismas were different. Yet both make others desire to come closer. At the scene of the shoot, the people watching Finn's performance did not notice a certain man standing in a corner. Tristan stood far away, quietly listening to the song. Suddenly, many different thoughts appeared in his mind. Such as when Finn's business transaction with Charles had ended and the first day he had come to live in his house, such as a man showing a sad and painful expression in his imagination, yet showing a carefree smile like clear skies in front of him. Such as a certain morning when he'd gone to Finn's apartment only to see Charles open the door. Or such as the night before when he had been smoking a cigarette below Finn's apartment, without understanding why he had driven there. He'd watched the light come on from the actor's window, and after struggling with himself, he'd finally made a phone call. In the end, he didn't go upstairs, he didn't go inside, and he'd left without a single word. But what was the reason? Tristan wasn't the only one who especially come to visit Finn. In another inconspicuous corner, Charles suddenly smiled. How could Finn choose such a song? Finn, this is against the rules. A complete foul. It was so good that it made him feel like the sad and shattered expressions were not deliberately acted out, but that he really had experienced countless times of hurt, falling down each time, yet in the end still walking forward each time. The man in the camera, his eyes started to reveal amusement, like the rainbow that appears when ice thaws at the first budding of spring. When you finally lift your head you realize that the dark clouds have already dispersed. When the song gradually grew softer and the music faded away, for the last scene, the Finn in the camera screen returned to his initial position, looking outside the window, his back towards the camera. The sunlight from outside the window spilled in, creating a gentle halo of light from his body. The music ended, and so the performance ended as well. Yet Finn did not hear the director yell cut for a long time. His surroundings were also extremely quiet. Could it be that he did not perform well? As his first time honestly facing the camera after his rebirth, it would be false to say that he did not feel a single bit of nervousness. He stared blankly for a bit, somewhat not understanding why everyone had fallen silent. The sound of someone clapping came from a corner. After that, it was like a stone dropped into water causing ripples, one after the other. People started to applaud, until all Finn could hear was warm applause and cheers. Finn went to the restroom to wash his face after the final exam. In the midst of cleaning up, his phone suddenly started ringing. Finn pulled it out to see an unknown number displayed on the screen. Hello? He answered the call, while pulling a few paper towels out of the dispenser to dry his hands. Mr. Tang, that was an excellent performance. Very excellent indeed. It was stunning enough that I couldn't resist giving you a call. I have been mesmerized by your performance. Completely and utterly mesmerized. With that theatrical way of speaking, it was difficult for Finn to pretend that he didn't know who was on the other end of the line. Finn knew the strange man would call him sooner or later. However, he didn't expect Albert to call just 3 months after their last meeting. He also didn't expect the onslaught of admiration from Albert in just their first phone call. Thank you. Out of mere courtesy, Finn expressed his gratitude. No, I'm the one who has to thank you. For a man who lives in the dark, you are the bright star that has lit up my heart. Finn had heard corny words of praise before, but hearing those same words come out of Albert's mouth made his hair stand on end. Finn squeezed the bridge of his nose and walked out of the restroom. He'd better find an empty room before continuing their call. A special man like Albert wouldn't call him out of nowhere just to express some admiration. Your determination and your intelligence, they've completely enthralled me. I'd heard that you had been kidnapped a few days earlier. Ah, heavens, I was very shocked when I came to know of it. But you had used your own power to escape from the devil's claws. In that kind of urgent and dangerous situation, the intelligence and decisiveness you've displayed is enough to make me insane. Then, Finn said, Mr. Albert, why exactly did you call me? Relax, don't worry. I'm only a loyal audience member of yours. I'm simply trying to express my adoration for you. I look forward to the day when you will light up the sky with your brilliance. At the end of everything, I'm the only one who can offer you love. A harmless and unique type of true love. Albert chuckled deeply on the end of the line and ended the call. Loyal audience? An obsessive psychopath was more like it. True Star training class had come to a perfect conclusion. The award ceremony of a small training class would never draw out that many reporters. However, besides the trainees, Numerous famous actors, directors, and other individuals had been invited to walk the red carpet tonight. They were the true focus of the paparazzi's cameras. Finn was wearing a dark blue, checkered suit today, appearing like a young urban professional. His look was completed with a smart bow tie, a large pair of black frames, and a swept-back hairstyle. According to Sharon, Finn was going for a hipster gentleman look. Finn was currently sitting in a black car heading toward the ceremony venue. Sharon, his manager and assistant, was sitting next to the driver at the front. He was sitting in the back with Tristan to his left and Charles to his right. In a moment, they would be walking down the red carpet together. That was right, all three of them. With Finn in the middle, Tristan on the left, and Charles on the right, they would be stepping onto the carpet together. "Are you nervous?" Tristan asked in a quiet voice. "With the two of you acting as guardians, it would be hard for me to become nervous." Finn lifted the corners of his mouth in a smile. "Please head over to the preparation area and get ready," a staff member informed them when they reached the venue. The three of them were set to walk last and close the show. The sound of music and cheers drifted faintly into the car. It felt as if they were floating in the dark, blue ocean. When the car door opened, the blinding lights of the entertainment world lit up the space. Music and cheers engulfed them in a sudden violent wave. The ones who could endure the torrent were the ones who would walk until the end. Charles and Tristan got out of the car from their respective doors. When Finn stepped out, he saw two hands reached out waiting for him. He smiled and grasped those hands without any hesitation. At that moment, the flashes of countless lights going off lit up the night. Under the bare scrutiny of camera lenses, the three of them walked down the red carpet hand in hand. Facing the cameras, Finn gave a confident and easy smile. At 7 o'clock on the dot, the True Star Training Class Award ceremony officially began. The guests gradually migrated inside the banquet hall and took their seats. A host walked on stage and gave a bureaucratic opening of the event. After that, the three big investors of the show, Tristan, Charles, and Sutton, went up on stage separately to give their speeches. The three of them shook hands and smiled at each other like they were old friends. Following the series of speeches, it was finally time for the main focus of the ceremony, congratulating the trainees on their successful graduation. In addition, the investors would be gifting the most exemplary trainees with generous checks as awards. Rather than a trophy, a real intangible check was a much more appropriate award for talents who had just debuted. Sutton called out the name for the most photogenic award. The winner was Tia, whose future path was bright like a sea of stars. After getting to know Tia, Finn discovered that while she might appear like a simple-minded and cheerful girl, she had an ambitious heart when it came to acting. Tia was young and she had the looks to match. She had already signed with Sue Entertainment. Finn didn't like Sutton, but he couldn't help but admit that the man gave good opportunities to new talents. While walking on stage, Tia appeared unexpectedly calm. Without any signs of anxiety, she accepted the check from Sutton and expressed her gratitude to the crowd. As she was walking off stage, she glanced triumphantly at Finn. He couldn't help but chuckle at her expression. After the first two awards, the names for several more were called out. Lukewarm awards such as the Best Dancer, the Best Etiquette, the Most Popular, and more were handed out one after another. The real prize was at the very end. As the show was called True Star Training Class, the final prize would naturally have True Star in its name. In this moment, we will hand out True Star Training Class Last Award. The trainee who receives the True Star Award will also receive a check worth $1 million. In addition, they would have the opportunity to collaborate with one of the country's most respected directors for a role in their film. They would also be given a contract for a commercial that is again worth $1 million. Lastly, they will have the opportunity to become the cover model for one of the country's 4 largest magazines. Now, exactly who will be receiving this award? Before revealing their name, please allow me to explain to everyone how we had decided on the receiver of the True Star Award. Firstly, the receiver has to be someone whose coursework grades rank in the top 3 among the trainees. Secondly, the receiver has to gain the approval of 2/3 of the other trainees. Lastly, the receiver must also gain the approval of the training class instructors. After the host stopped speaking, a video appeared on the screen at the back of the stage. The first person who appeared in the video was the dance instructor, Pacino. The charming man with wrinkles on his forehead smiled at the camera. "If I have another chance, I would love to dance another tango with Finn." Cheers and claps immediately rang out in the banquet hall following Pacino's words. A spotlight also beamed down on the spot Finn was sitting in. He looked at the screen and smiled at Pacino's image. The one who appeared next was the music instructor, Sting. His appraisal was, "If you ever release an album, I hope I would have the honor of working as your producer." Subsequently, the instructors for horse riding, social interaction, and more appeared on the screen. Following that were videos of each of the trainees. The host had asked each of them whether they would support Finn as the receiver of the True Star Award, and none of them had disagreed. This is the might of a sly old fox like me, Finn thought self-mockingly. Of course, the three big investors who were still standing on stage, Tristan, Charles, and Sutton also appeared in the video. Finn was thoroughly surprised when he saw Sutton voice out his approval. Just when everyone thought that the host was about to announce Finn's name, just when Finn was thinking that he'd be able to sit there calmly and accept the award no matter who appeared, an old man showed up on the screen. It was one of the world's most celebrated actors, Fiennes' teacher, Leroy. When Finn glanced up at Leroy's reflection, it seemed as if he were having a conversation face to face with the old actor. Barriers like life and death did not exist, his unexplainable identity did not matter, and the screen that separated them did not hinder them. When Leroy appeared on the screen, Finn felt tears at the rim of his eyes. With a kind expression, the old man slowly spoke. Just when I had thought that the brightest star in this world had fallen to oblivion, I saw the performance of a young man from China. All you needed to do was look at that pair of bright eyes to see an untouchable world. At that moment, a lively old man walked out from behind the screen. With a smile on his face, he spread his arms. Congratulations, my child. You are the true star. The audience burst into applause. One by one, people stood up to welcome the arrival of such a revered artist. Finn took a deep breath to calm himself, and then ran up on stage. The moment he had his arms around Leroy in a hug, the tears that he had been holding back fell down his cheeks. If Fiennes were still alive, he would be extremely happy to see you right now, because you have succeeded his spirit. Leroy was extremely saddened by the passing of a gifted actor like Fiennes, but he was also extremely happy to see the rise of another true star during his life. Like a father, he kindly patted the man silently crying on his shoulder. You're very much like Fiennes. You are both grown men on the outside, yet occasionally, you both would cry non-stop like children. Leroy, thank you. Choking on his emotions, Finn attempted a smile. I know you will become a true star in the future. I'm very happy to have met you, my child. Leroy, this gray-haired old man, not only was he Finn's first acting teacher, he was also a father at times. Finn didn't have a father. He didn't know how a real father should act, but he thought if he did have one, his father would be like Leroy. His father would teach him acting, guide him on the principles of life, and quietly pat him on the back when he was feeling weak and hurt. Tonight, a true star was reborn.